Thanks for joining us. I'm Leanie Lambrink. An evacuation alert in Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories has been lifted. The village was ordered to evacuate on June 28 as wildfire bared down on the community. That order was downgraded last Saturday and residents started heading home, but there was still an evacuation alert in place until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Some services have been returning to normal already, like mail, rec center activities, and garbage pickup. Many are feeling lucky the damage wasn't worse, but as the CBC's Jocelyn Chappelle reports, they're still grappling with how their community has changed.
The Fort Simpson wildfire damage is evident. For many, it becomes real while driving into town, or for some returning home to properties that the fire skimmed the edges of. Connie McNabb is the Chief Operating Officer for the Decho region with the Northwest Territories Health and Social Services Authority.
Nothing really quite prepares you for what you come home to see. But what's really comforting coming home is seeing the return of our community.
She says while the emotional toll is there, residents are supporting each other through it, sharing stories and encouragement as daily routines resume. While some face the changed landscape for the first time, others stayed throughout the worst of it. Resident Scott Gordon was there as an essential worker during the wildfire. He says it's thanks to tireless work from firefighters that damage to the town wasn't more severe.
They were on patrols 24/7. I know up at Wildrose, a lot of the houses were threatened and the fire was encroaching. There was actually firefighters that were sitting down and falling asleep on the side of the road that had been 22 hours non-stop working, protecting the community. So really hats off to all of the people that put the effort in to save the community. Because after being here and seeing how critical it was, we're very lucky we're not missing a lot of homes.
A majority of structures in Fort Simpson are intact or untouched. However, multiple had close calls, and some cabins burnt down, as well as a tiny home. A resident shop, a camper, and other vehicles and secondary structures like garages didn't make it out of the blaze. Kaylee Antoine is the Lidlaquay First Nation chief.
Now, hopefully, now that we're kind of out of the danger zone, that everybody involved can take that time to rest, maybe see some of the mental health support workers that are in the community right now and sort of debrief and de-stress and get some of that stuff off your chest.
He says next is working with the village of Fort Simpson and government offices to replace food and appliances lost to the fire, and encourages residents to focus on the good. Jocelyn Chappelle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A man accused of killing a teenager in Betchakon, Northwest Territories, is on trial. Zach Lafferty is charged with second-degree murder in the death of 17-year-old Dejan Drybones in 2023. Our reporter, Devin Tredinick, has been covering court all week. He joins us now to talk about the case. Devin, this isn't the first time that Zach Lafferty has been on trial for these charges. Tell us more about that.
Lafferty was actually tried last fall. It ended in a mistrial. Now, with a new jury of 12, the court's trying again. The judge reminded this jury, if you have read or heard anything about this case, you must banish it from your minds.
There's been testimony from different people this week in the court. Can you tell us about what you've heard so far?
Yeah, we've heard from two groups of people. First are his friends, Drybones' friends, and then the first responders who came to the scene. At the time, Drybones' friends would have been in their teens. They got together at a house in Betchakon and started drinking and smoking cannabis, and Lafferty was also there. At some point during the night, Lafferty got into a fight with someone who was not Drybones. It was recorded on a person's phone and shown in court. But details of why exactly there was a fight or what happened after are slim. Because of how intoxicated they were, many of Drybones' friends have testified they have serious gaps in their memory of what happened. One witness was not at the house, and she told the court she was sober and had been on the phone with Drybones. She could overhear someone shouting at him, asking where their phone was. She says she heard something that sounded like a punch and heard Drybones scream in pain. He told her that he had been stabbed, and she called RCMP.
What are RCMP saying in this trial?
RCMP have photos of the crime scene, which were shown in court. The details are disturbing. They show a bloody trail leading to a bathroom where they found Drybones. His friends were still in the house. They were intoxicated and asleep at the time police arrived. Another officer testified he spoke to Drybones. His conversation was recorded and played in court. In that recording, Drybones told the officer that Lafferty had stabbed him. Drybones was pronounced dead in a hospital a few hours later.
The trial isn't over yet. How long is it expected to last?
So the judge set out 10 days for this trial. I asked the Crown prosecutor today if he thinks it'll take that much time, but he couldn't say.
Okay, thanks for your reporting on this, Devin.
Thank you.
Construction of a daycare in Arctic Bay, Nunavut is still on schedule. A fire in a storage yard last week burned some of the materials needed for the build. Police say they're still investigating. The Kakivac Association is leading the construction project. It says plywood, lumber, and roofing materials were destroyed. Replacement materials are expected by August, with construction set for September. Arctic Bay's fire chief says the daycare will be the first one in the community in over a decade. The Yukon is one of 5 jurisdictions across the country without standalone disability legislation. One Whitehorse mother wants the government to write some. But as TJ Deere reports, she was devastated by the Yukon Party's response.
Georgette Asakin is a full-time carer of her daughter, Selena. Selena has Rett syndrome, a rare genetic neurological disorder.
It's a workout, but no cardio.
Georgette has to file paperwork every month to get supports like social assistance, on top of annual paperwork to the Yukon Housing Corporation to keep their home. Because of the demands of taking care of Selena, Georgette admits that she's made mistakes. This has led to threats of being evicted, but when she tries to resolve the issue in person,
You're treated like a juvenile delinquent. You've done something terribly wrong and you're just to be shamed on the spot.
in response to this allegation, Yukon Housing says it's committed to respectful interactions with its clients. But all of this has taken a physical and mental toll on Georgette.
I feel like, I see a bison with getting speared from all directions, and I can bleed all over the place, and nobody will embrace that.
Georgette says legislation would help. She was in the Legislative Assembly with her daughter when the Yukon NDP introduced the second of two motions back in April asking for standalone disability legislation. This would allow all the territorial supports to be accessed in one place. The Yukon Party promised to consider the idea, but it hasn't gone further than that.
But it may be determined that there are alternative courses of action to be taken that may be better to address the needs within the community.
What? A slap in the face. It was just devastating.
And the Yukon NDP leader was also livid.
I'm furious because of what it indicated and what it broadcast to disability community, to folks who are living in a system right now that doesn't recognize their inherent dignity and their right to exist.
This nonprofit co-wrote a letter last month stressing the need for disability legislation.
It not only will help Yukoners that are born here, who are born with a disability and grow up going through our education system, then having supports available to them to be able to access employment, access housing.
But Georgette isn't giving up. After what happened in the legislature, she created this petition, also advocating for disability legislation. It currently has almost 350 signatures.
It's like my inner child just is like this inside, and I just feel like I knew it. I knew it. You guys, you care. I know people care.
If there's one thing you could say to the Premier or the Health and Social Services Minister, what would you say to them?
We have the tools, we have the knowledge. We want to work together, and we want to build a strong territory, and we want to build this strong infrastructure for all of our families to thrive and survive and just be free. Meet with me. Take a chance on me.
A government spokesperson says any potential legislation will be informed by those in the disability community, should the government decide legislation is necessary. TJ Deere, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The Yukon government is rolling out new restrictions for cell phones and other personal devices in schools. The policy will cover students from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. The CBC's Alexa Mackay has more.
Phones, laptops, tablets, smartwatches, and smart glasses. Those will all be covered by the Yukon government's new policy on devices in classrooms. The education minister says he believes cracking down on their use will help address mental health and learning issues.
Most individuals that I've heard from see them as a distraction for the students from learning. There's issues around the mental health and privacy concerns when students have personal devices with them. So, I mean, obviously we want to make sure that our students are extremely successful with their learning.
The policy bans personal devices from being used during class times in high schools and entirely in elementary schools. Exceptions to the ban can be made for inclusive education or medical needs. Each school authority will develop its own implementation plan. But not all students are convinced a ban will work.
I think that there would be a lot of pushback because at my school, even the grade 8s and 9s aren't really supposed to have their phone. They're supposed to put them in a pouch at the front of the class. But that hasn't really been working, so I don't know how they'd use a ban.
The head of the Yukon's Educators Union says she also has concerns, including that the government didn't tell the union when the finalized policy was being released.
Most teachers and principals heard about this in terms of timing through the media rather than through their employer. To me, that just shows a bit of a lack of respect. The devil's in the details, and how one implements an overall good idea is really the heavy lifting, I think.
Burridge says educators now have limited time to figure out how to actually enforce the policy and deal with any potential consequences. The Yukon government's policy comes into effect on August 19th. How effective it will be at limiting distractions remains to be seen. Alexa Mackay, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The city of Yellowknife has unveiled its plan to expand the Cam Lake area. It's trying to address demand for commercial space, but some residents at an open house last night met the plan with skepticism. Sarah St. Pierre has more.
People in the room Thursday night weren't sold on the city of Yellowknife's vision for a new expansion in Cam Lake, and were already asking about a chance to weigh in again down the line.
What engagement happens there so that some of these conversations about where this doesn't look right can happen and be heard?
The plan is still in its early stages, but here's some of what the city has in mind. A lot of space for commercial and light industrial use, a stretch of land dedicated to urban agriculture that might require some rock blasting to farm, and an area set aside for public utilities like a potential lift station down the line. And in the middle of it all, some undisturbed space for the wetland crossing the area and some trails around it. The city says it's done its research to show that this expansion is needed.
Yellowknife is indeed growing, and we're trying to respond to that growth with a little bit of planning, and that's what this is. There will be subsequent steps in the process, and we look forward to people continuing to bring their voices to the conversation. Our market study sort of lays out that this is required. We're anticipating that this will last us a while, 10 or 15 years out.
One person in attendance was there because he's interested in growing his business. The new area could open up space for him if it's priced affordably.
The cost of land, specifically in Yellowknife, and the availability of land is slim. I'd like for it to be focused on Yellowknifers and young entrepreneurs, giving them the space to develop their futures.
The public raised a lot of questions about the proposed layout and whether it should include more housing. It'll be up to City Council to review that feedback and bring their own questions at a committee meeting in August. There would be a public hearing before the plan is finalized, and any construction is still a few years away. Sarah Saint-Pierre, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Rock blasting is underway near Giant Mine outside Yellowknife. Traffic on the Ingram Trail is being temporarily delayed during blasts. The Giant Mine remediation project is doing work this summer to upgrade 2 intersections along the highway. It includes a new main entrance to the former gold mine site and project offices. Workers are using rubber blast mats to muffle the sounds and hold down dust and debris. The deputy director of the Giant Mine remediation project says blasting work will be wrapping up by the end of this month.
We'll be able to improve traffic flow when trucks start hauling materials across the highway, and we'll also be able to make sure that trucks can accelerate when they get onto the highway quickly, and traffic doesn't have to stop because they'll be able to use bypass lanes when they're heading back towards Yellowknife.
Road work on this section of the Ingram is expected to continue through August. Today marks the last edition of the Yellowknifers Friday paper. It's officially reducing its schedule and ending the Weekender after 40 years. Northern News Services announced the newspaper will now only print on Wednesdays. Weekend reporting will shift entirely to digital channels like its daily email newsletter, The Morning Alert. The company's general manager says modern readers have more news options than before. A former NNSL publisher says print economics have changed drastically over the past 20 years in local newsrooms.
You only have to compare a giant machine that's being serviced and operated by a number of people, compare that to a website that can deliver news with code. So all of those things change the economics.
Valby added that tech giants like Facebook and Google undercut traditional ad revenues. NNSL confirmed daily local reporting will continue uninterrupted online. The final print issue of The Weekender is available on newsstands across Yellowknife today. With the Inuit Circumpolar Council General Assembly taking center stage in Iqaluit, we're highlighting some of the people working behind the scenes. Dorothy Edwardson has been interpreting at gatherings since 1986. She says it can be difficult interpreting simultaneously when people speak fast, but it's important to keep translating and not linger on a single word.
Really enjoy translating. It's not just helping people understand, but it's all learning for myself what they're talking about. So it's a like two-edged sword that you could learn and help people understand what they're talking about.
Hilda Woods-Hass is an interpreter from Northwest Inupiaq. She says at gatherings like these, she can pick up other dialects.
When Greenlanders speak, I like to hear their language and try to convert it in my own language. It could be hit and miss, but it's a good practice. I did that with a couple of speakers that speak slow.
The ICC conference ends tomorrow. The Executive Council will be sworn in and the 2026 declaration will be signed. Elders in Inuvik Northwest Territories have been enjoying more time on the land. The Inuvik Community Corporation held a picnic yesterday on the Inuvik-Tuktoyaktuk Highway. It's part of the organization's Elder Program. The CBC's Des Lorraine drove up to check it out.
My family likes to cook our buck duck for 3 to 4 hours at a time. So we like the tenderness.
The Inuvik Community Corporation hosted a picnic on the land for local elders on Thursday afternoon. It was the second event this month hosted by the organizers.
They've been asking for it again, so partnering with a few groups in town like Ingamo and a few other groups, but we're just all coming together and throwing a big picnic for our elders just to celebrate the summer and being together.
Fish, muktuk, geese, caribou, and other country foods were served during the picnic. Some elders even got to do some berry picking.
There's few. It's too close. Everybody's picking around here. But if you go down the highway a little bit further, there should be more and there should be bigger a little bit. Yeah.
Organizers say they're already planning more events to take place at the cultural camp this summer. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
2 Iqaluit residents are on a mission to bring back the art of traditional Inuit kayak making. The Kayakut Society is showcasing vessels from different parts of Inuit Nunat. The organization hopes by learning and celebrating these differences, the tradition will become commonplace. Once again, Samuel Watt has more.
This is the first kayak I've ever made.
Isaac Willman showing off his decade-old wood-furnished kayak made West Greenland style. He and Robert Colmore run the Kayakut Society. They're teaching Iqaluit how to build a kayak. Inuit hunters designed those vessels to more easily harvest seals and whales on the water, and they were ingeniously constructed using only materials on hand.
There's a lot of material on the West Greenland style, so it's an easy one to start with.
Colmore says they were first exposed to the practice by some polar adventurers. Since then, they taught themselves how to do it more and more, and now they're looking to pass on that knowledge. But it's not just the Greenland style they're showing.
Everything has different dialects and different regions, so it's really cool as we progress through our journey as kayak builders to use the skills that we've developed to bring the South Baffin kayak back into view.
The South Baffin kayak, he explains, is one of the biggest kayaks across Inuit Nunangat. It's designed to withstand the big tides in the region and to carry more seals.
The Greenland style, I call it like a fighter jet, and our Iqaluit style is kind of like a C-130 Hercules.
There are also other variations, such as the shape of the seat. Baffin's seats are less circular to fit a hunting rifle. Hearing about these differences gives Colmore goosebumps.
No matter where we go in Inuit communities, we get people coming up to us saying, "Oh, I remember my grandfather had one," or "I remember my father had one," or "I remember riding inside of one and falling asleep to the sound of the noise."
Hearing those stories, Colmore says, reminds him of who he is and how Inuit survived. But he doesn't want it just relegated to the past. Right now, Colmore says it takes a lot of effort to get the materials and space you need to build a kayak.
I would love to see it's going to happen where fathers are teaching their sons again and mothers are teaching their daughters on how to do the stitch.
And that's their mission, to spread that knowledge far and wide so it becomes a part of everyday life once again. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Part of the Beaufort Delta region in the Northwest Territories is seeing some high winds. CBC's Lawrence Nyali shot this video from the Peel River Ferry earlier today. He was heading to Inuvik from Fort McPherson. He says ferry service was paused to wait for winds to die down. Now, let's take a look at your weather forecast. That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. Thanks for watching. I'm Leanie Lambrink. Have a great weekend.